I think people want to hear what you got to say about these trades that are going down. So thanks for taking a little bit of time away from the tanning outside. You know what I mean?
Yeah, now, how soon before we hear they signed Damian Lillard?
I know, right?
That was, Demps was just on with Coach and Raj, and they talked about the same thing. Do you let the guy kind of heal up in your with a vet minimum contract and just hope maybe you get him back for the playoffs? I mean, it's not totally crazy.
No, that'd be interesting to see. Yeah, that I mean, I guarantee you, probably some people are talking about it. I'm sure there's other people talking about it too, obviously. But let's just go with what they have done. The deal done today is not done if the Michael Porter Jr. deal is not done.
Right.
Because that got you below the apron and got you below the cap and allowed you to have more money to free up. And I'm with Tyler. The caveat for Brooklyn, I was reading yesterday, they're trying to stockpile picks. They figure they can give Porter's got 2 years of his deal. They'll pay him this year, and then if not, it'll be a expiring contract next year, which will be easier to move. So they're going to, a 1 year to give him a chance to see if he can stick in Brooklyn. I think that was a home run trade. You got a guy who's 2 years older. He's basically the same guy, I think, offensively, except I think he's a better passer. I think he'll move more, and I'm not this into diss on Michael, but I don't know if it's the health things or what. But I don't know how much he can really move. But this guy will move without the basketball, which will make him even more dangerous.
And he can shoot off the dribble, right?
And he's a better defender. Well, he had to get more off the dribble in Brooklyn. Before, he was kind of a spot-up guy, brought him on off the bench and do this. He kind of came into his own, really, last 2 years in Brooklyn, where I think he shot like 43 and 40% from three. He's always been a good shooter. I just think it's a win. And I mean, look at all the money you saved, right? I mean, you saved $40 million basically in 2 years from the salary cap.
And that's essentially why they included that first round pick, why it was worth making the deal. The players are really close to similar. They bring you a couple of variants in terms of different things, but like their shooting slash lines are close. MPJ arguably a better rebounder. My question for you is, with the addition of that, now you got Jonas Valanciunas in the fold as well. You bring back Bruce Brown. You were on the show when we talked to the VPs and said, hey, what is your identity as a team? And they said to be able to beat any style, which is great when 15's on the floor. But when 15's not on the floor, what's your identity? Is it maybe defense now, Scotty?
Well, it could be. I mean, Valanciunas is not the greatest defensive player, but that's a big, stout, strong dude who's been a star of the league, who's a pretty good passer as well. Listen, when you compare passing with Joker, I mean, you got to see if Magic still got some years left in him. That's the only guy you can kind of compare him with. But no, it's the first time since Plumlee you've gotten a legitimate center that can back up Joker and take big minutes. That's probably about 8 times more talented offensively than Plumlee was.
How the heck did we get that deal done? That one to me is almost crazier than the Michael Porter Jr. one. We just swapped Dario for a dude that actually plays basketball, that scores 10 points a game, that's 6'11", that's like a legitimate backup center. Like, how do we get that done?
And if you go back to his Orlando days, made an all-star game, I believe, when he was in Orlando or Chicago, one of the two. And I think was a 2010 guy for a couple of years in his league. He's probably getting up there. I didn't look at his age. I bet he's 31, 32, 33 maybe. But no, he's a player. You add $5 more million to your salary cap, but again, you're able to do that because you traded Porter. But next year his contract at $10 million isn't even guaranteed.
Yeah, it's a team option, which is great for the Nuggets, right? The opposite of what Dario just had.
Work out, then guess what? So, listen, hey, anybody had any question on John Wallace, I think I ought to step back and go, my bad.
Yeah.
My bad.
I want to ask you about that because now listen, to give Calvin Booth his credit, when he first came in, he made moves like this that did win them a championship. And so his credit is due there, but it makes him look kind of bad here on the back end. So I wanted your take on, John Wallace coming in, making these moves, and why Calvin Booth didn't. There was reporting that it got squashed by ownership a little bit, trying to trade MPJ maybe at the deadline. Your thoughts on, everybody kind of felt like we were hogtied because the Nuggets never did anything. And then, the first 24 hours when they can make deals, all of a sudden they've reshaped this team.
Well, and going back what you said, Calvin did the same thing. And I thought, and I don't know, maybe that's after you're here for a handful of years, you kind of get stuck in your ways and just say, hey, let's just trust, as Tyler was talking about last week, just rolling it back. And I'm not sure, had Calvin not taken over from Tim Connolly, they wouldn't have tried to roll it back that year. And Calvin said no and made two significant trades and you know what, a workmanlike draft and getting Porter Jr. and even Peyton Watson, who didn't play that rookie year, but a good solid draft and two great picks. Well, they didn't have any picks. The draft day in 2 days was boring as heck if you were a Nuggets fan. There wasn't a whole lot of news involving. I've been checking my phone, clicking on Denver, and it's, Western Conference stories this, Western Conference stories that, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden, just out of the blue, my phone's blowing up, and I'm like, oh, okay. Listen, I think this good. And I asked Tyler this: going to college football or even going to pro football with the AD or the general manager, and you hire one of them guys new. Doesn't he want to put a stamp on the program right away?
Yep.
Well, John Wallace put a stamp on the program right away.
Pretty amazing. I definitely did not see this coming. And what's so amazing about it is just it was one move. Getting rid of Michael Porter Jr. freed up about $40 million that they were able to play with. And now they had all this flexibility that it feels like, wow, what's amazing about all this is that I still don't even think they're done. They still have got the ability to make another move if they would like to. Scott, one move that we haven't even mentioned though, they do bring back Bruce Brown. That felt like something that was inevitable almost over the last couple months because Bruce had been hyping it up so much. Do you think that his role looks the same as it did during the championship year?
Well, listen, and I said this last night on Andy and I's podcast, and I think we can look back in hindsight. And Russell Westbrook did a lot of great things here. He helped you win a bunch of games. He was very good, but I'm not sure that was a stamp of approval to start the season from Jamal Murray. I think part of Jamal Murray's reticence going into the year might have been the fact that Russell was signed. I don't know. He can't let stuff like that bother him if that were the case, but I've heard rumors to that. Now you bring in Bruce. He may not be the offensive rebounder, but he's going to play just as fast, just as hard, better three-point shooter. And the biggest thing, guess what? When Russ came in the locker room last year, he had to reintroduce himself or introduce himself to everybody in there. I mean, everybody knows him by reputation, but you got to figure out what kind of guy he is. Bruce Brown's going to come in there, and guess what? They're going to say, dude, what'd you do over the weekend? We ain't seen you all weekend. It's going to be like he was just gone for a little bit. Now all of a sudden he's back. He'll fit. In fact, I'll be shocked if Bruce Brown ain't in town within the next 2 or 3 days. Getting ready to get a place to live, hanging out, going down to Coors Field, watching the Rockies play, and all the stuff Bruce does. He'll get in this, and he knows everybody's routine. He knows what everything has to go through. He knows the strength and conditioning coach, what the expectations are. He knows where the gym is. He knows where he's supposed to park his car. Listen, he'll come in. They just got to take a new picture for his badge, and he's back in. It's going to be a smoother transition for a guy who will still back up Jamal in some moments. They'll play him and Jamal together sometimes. And so I just think it's going to be smoother. Now, the key is by getting Bruce and now adding Valanciunas and even in Cam, I think you've added 3 scores or guys the capability to score. I think Cam takes what Michael could do, and he can blow up and have big games. I think Bruce can do everything that Westbrook can do and score and have big. Well, and now all of a sudden you got Valanciunas. Listen, go back and just look in his years. I think he was a 20-10 guy for a year or two in the league. So this guy, now you finally, for the first time ever, got a real guy that can score and cause a whole lot of problems on the offensive glass as a backup center. And now, again, I'm going to stay consistent. If Julian Strawther takes that step up, you would have added 4 pieces that are better scoring options that you brought in than from last year. At least 3 of them, I think, will be better than what you had last year.
Yeah.
That's incredible. To Tyler's point about the money, I did want your take on this too, because a couple people have said it. If they stay under the first apron this year, everybody has said that this makes it way easier to sign Christian Braun to a deal maybe next year. I'm interested what you think about that, that giving him a contract, all that, this re-situation of their cap kind of affords them the opportunity to do that next year. I assume that's something that you're interested in with the way that he plays. What kind of contract would you like him to have and contribute to this team, Scotty?
Well, listen, money always creeps up, but I don't think he's ever going to be a max deal guy. But I think you're going to see him float around between 15 and 20, and I think he's making, what, 4.5?
Yep.
Yeah. He'll probably be in that, depending on how much the escalation can be, 12, 15, 18, somewhere in there. But, no, I think they'll look at that. I think it's a big year for him. He's got to keep improving. That's the guy we don't even talk about. And probably should have said the most, I think, maybe been the most improved player. They give the most improved player to Cade Cunningham, who was the first pick in the draft. Well, wait a minute. Maybe you just stop sucking, because obviously if you're the first pick in the draft, everybody thought you were pretty good. And now you win comeback player of the year from being the first pick in the draft. Come on, man. That ain't realistic. No. And you got a guy that went from 8 points a game to 15 points a game, from bench to starter. That's improved. So if he can take another step next year, and he's floating between 15 and 20, 17 points a game also. Listen, all I know is this. You got to play him when you get him. Can't wait till November. But they got better. They've gotten better in 48 hours.
Heck yeah.
Are you? Does it give you a little bit of juice? I had a little bit of juice this morning. Like, I woke up, I was like, I'm throwing on my Nugget shirt to go in there today. You got a little bit of extra juice, Scotty?
Yeah, you know what? Like I said, my phone started blowing up yesterday. I was like, oh, what did they do? Because if you guys remember, I was talking Cam Johnson at the trade deadline. Cam Johnson, I was throwing his name out last February. So that excites me, because I like I said, I think he's a more mobile, defensive-minded Michael Porter Jr. That's what I think he is. Valanciunas is better than any backup we've ever had. Listen, he's gone head-to-head with Joker in Orlando and Chicago. I mean, he started against Joker, and he's had games where he played well. That's a man. They got a man backing up center now.
Let me ask you this one more thing too. Chris Dempsey was on with Kreckman and Lindahl right when this trade happened, and Bruce Brown got signed yesterday. And
Brian Porter's gone.
He wasn't overly happy about it. He's a big Michael Porter Jr. fan, but when he was talking about Bruce Brown, the guys asked him, what is the expectation? Like, where should the expectation level be at for Bruce Brown coming back? And I think that's a fair question. He struggled a little bit in all his other stops.
Right.
And part of that was, and there was a story.
3 teams in 1 year.
Yeah. There was a story about him in free agency where Michael Malone walked up to him and said, these teams aren't using you right. I know how to use you. Come play here. Now, DA was obviously here for that and knows how to use him. But do we need to temper our expectations on what Brucey B can deliver? Or do you believe that his expectation level should be right back where it was when he was the 6th man for a championship team?
What was your expectations when he was here? A 6th man of a championship team?
Yeah.
That's exactly what your expectations should be.
You think so the couple years he was away was just...
Well, you got to remember, he hurt his knee and had knee surgery, so that messed him up a little bit. But everywhere, I mean, he had some nice games in Indiana, and he had some nice games in Toronto before the injury. So I listen, I think he'll be healthy. Like I said, I'll be shocked that he ain't in town, and he's going to make 100% sure that come training camp, that knee is 100% right and ready to go.
Hey, Scotty, before we let you out of here, I got to get your thoughts on what Milwaukee's done. I mean, moving on from Dame, that's a pretty insane move there. Is it just outright desperation to keep Giannis happy, or what's going on there?
Well, that's a good question. Um, I think Dame needs to be the lead dog, and I think Giannis needs to be the lead dog. Now, Giannis sounded on X that he wasn't real happy that they let Dame go.
Yeah, that doesn't mean
Dame's
anything.
probably not going to come back, you know, way late in the year if he comes back. I don't know. To me, it seemed like a team that was up there in that tax, and they didn't want to keep paying that tax. So let's drop everything around. Covington got traded also, I believe, or was going to be. Um, let's get below the thing and then offer Giannis. The key is Giannis owns all the sway, and let's see if Giannis decides that nah, I ain't staying. Give me a.
I mean, what are your thoughts on Miles Turner, who they're at? Basically, they swapped Dame Lillard for Miles Turner in that situation.
Well, they did money wise, but they also lost Brooks Lopez, who really needs to be a backup center at his age and where he's going. He wasn't the same guy he was when they won the championship. So you needed a big. I'm not a fan of Miles Turner myself. I thought that was overpaying, in my opinion.
All right.